All right, let's transition here into college football. Again, if you're just now tuning in, no off the bench today. My show got bumped up an hour, and they basically were like, go as long as you want. And obviously, we only have 4 minutes left in the hour, but I'm fine to sit here and talk some college football. And that's what we're going to do here on the show. Mentioned it at the top. Miami lost. The Hurricanes lost. Number 2 in the AP poll. Louisville beats them 24-21. Louisville's a solid team. Braun, their coach, you got to respect him. Had the viral moment as a player in the XFL, I think, when he was playing quarterback. But he's a good coach, right? And you got Miller Moss, who obviously was the USC quarterback last year, and they get him in the portal, and he's been solid. Don't look now. Louisville only has 1 loss, and they're ranked now in the AP 19, I believe, in the country. But this is about Miami, right? I mean, you can't. I sat here and was like, it feels a little bit different, with Miami this year. They got a good offensive line. They got a good defense. They got a quarterback that's making good decisions with the football. It feels like they could be, a threat potentially to win the national title. Well, clearly that is not the case anymore, really, at this point. I mean, they still have an easy schedule and still very well easily could get into the playoff. But Carson Beck threw 4 picks. Should have been more, by the way. He's throwing people under the bus after the game. It's just like, dude. I mean, you were playing. People had your name in Heisman Trophy conversations. You're here playing on a Friday against a solid team in your conference, and you go out there and just, you kind of make a mess of it. Make a complete mess of it, and it's an embarrassing loss for Cristobal and Miami. I don't even know if they're a top 10 team at this point. Like, that just can't happen. If you want to sit there and compete for a national title, you're 14-point favorites at home. Right, it's a Friday game, so you got more eyes watching because there's not other stuff going on around the country as much. And you go out there and you make a complete mess of it. And we'll see if they respond. Again, the schedule's easy, so if they run the table, they're in. But that's just if you play like that against a team like Ohio State or Oregon or Alabama, like, you're gonna get the doors blown off you. And honestly, they were fortunate to even be hanging around and have an opportunity in that football game. But you can't throw 4 picks again. Should have been worse for Carson Beck, and they lose that game. Minnesota beats Nebraska on Friday night there as well, 24-6. Nebraska finally gets ranked, and then they do the same thing. As they make a complete mess of that. They score 6 points. Matt Rule, maybe he's already thinking about the Penn State job. I don't know, but it's a Minnesota team that's not good. And 24-6 can't happen. Ryle in the offense didn't do anything in the game, and obviously that's a big time loss for them. Texas A&M. This one was kind of interesting. I've been really high on A&M this year. They gave up 42 points to Arkansas. Only won that game 45-42. Taylon Green, the Arkansas quarterback, credit to him. But this is the A&M defense I thought was a lot better than that. Credit to Marcel Reed for holding it down offensively, and they're running the ball and they're throwing the ball. But it's a team, it's an interim head coach in Arkansas, and to give up 42 points, that is a red flag. Credit to them for winning. And one of the things that Texas A&M has kind of been able to hang their hat on is they have multiple different ways to win football games, and they've shown that throughout the course of the year to this point. But I have some questions coming off that game as they barely escape with a victory against Arkansas. Ohio State 34-0. Now, Wisconsin's awful. They might be the worst team in the Big Ten. By the way, they haven't scored in the past 2 games because Iowa shut them out last week there as well. Ohio State's really, really good. We've been wanting and waiting and thinking about when they were going to open things up for Julian Sayin. They finally did. And, Julian Sayin, he skyrocketed up the Heisman boards, right? I think he very much is a threat to win the Heisman Trophy. They've got guys all over. And clearly they are the top of the top right now. They're the reigning national champs. And I do think there's a few teams in the country that can compete with them, but they are clearly the best team. They are clearly in a league of their own. Ryan Day is moving different. He's got crazy confidence and swagger about him. On the heels of that national title, Sayin's playing tremendous. And that defense, man. I mean, it's just NFL dudes everywhere, and they got an NFL guy calling the shots, and Matt Patricia there as well. And it's just really unbelievable, honestly, that things are transpiring the way they are for Ohio State defensively. I mean, those linebackers, they'll hit you, right? They'll hit you really hard, but the speed of them is crazy, right? I mean, Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese, they've got incredible speed, and they will hunt you down, and they will – like, you get these running quarterbacks against them, and they can't get outside. Like, the linebackers just track them down. They've got versatile guys as well on defense, like Caleb Downs. I mean, you can line him up wherever the heck you want. Same, really, with Arvell Reese. Igbenogsen's gotten way better. And, Matthews holding it down on the outside as well. Devin Sanchez, true freshman, they're getting him involved and in the mix. And the front is just as good as it was last year, which they're all new guys there as well. So, Ohio State is the real deal. Their schedule's weak. And as I've said several times, just feels like we're waiting for that Michigan game. Indiana beats Michigan State. That was kind of close early in that game. I like what Michigan State's doing a little bit there offensively. It wasn't the best bet of the weekend. I did take the points there in that game. Spartans did cover. A fun game this coming week, Indiana, UCLA. We'll talk about UCLA in a second. But Indiana still gets the win. I don't know if I'll have them at 2. I think there's another team in the SEC that might leapfrog them, but they're clearly a top 3 team in the country. Indiana, Signetti, he's doing his thing. Mendoza, he's doing his thing. That's a good football team, and they are very much a threat. Game of the day, Georgia beats Ole Miss 43-35. They won the fourth quarter 17-0. Gunner Stockton had the best game of his career, and he was incredible in the loss against Tennessee a few weeks ago. He was incredible in the win against Tennessee a few weeks ago, but a shootout, right, for Georgia. It doesn't really feel Georgia and Kirby-like. That defense is not as, you think about the Georgia defenses when they went back-to-back. They didn't give up points, right? They were tremendous. The defense doesn't feel like a Georgia defense, but this offense is really good, and they score a bunch of points. They can run the football, and Zachariah Branch coming into his own, right? He was coming into college, supposed to be like the best high school player in the country. He goes to USC. He was a good returner, but they didn't really maximize him. Now he's really starting to be that wide receiver 1 for Georgia, and that's a really good football team. They can win the national title. They have the loss to Alabama, but they're really, really good. I'm surprised Ole Miss played as well as they did in the game. I actually come away from that game thinking, okay, Ole Miss is still a solid football team. Remember, I was saying they were kind of overrated and didn't think they were going to do a whole lot. I think Ole Miss is still solid. We'll see what Lane Kiffin does with their schedule going forward, but Georgia's the real deal, and they win that game 43-35 at home. Alabama. Everyone, the dynasty's dead. Alabama, they're cooked, right? 8-4, stuck with the boar. Yeah, get out of here with that. As the Alabama Crimson Tide have navigated this schedule beautifully, this gauntlet beautifully. 4 straight top 16 opponents they have faced and knocked them off each and every one. They got the best passing attack in the country. They got the Heisman Trophy frontrunner and Ty Simpson pulling the trigger, calling the shots there at that quarterback position. Kalen DeBoer's moving with the chip on his shoulder. He's still ticked off about that Florida State game, and his whole team is still ticked off about it, and they're playing with that chip on their shoulder as well. They got to go on the road this week against South Carolina, who South Carolina was supposed to be good this year. They are not. Again, Kalen DeBoer on the road has struggled, right? Does have the win against Georgia, which is big. Does have the win against Missouri, which is big as well. But I need to see it one more time here against South Carolina, because I think that was going into the year a game that was circled like, that's going to be tough there for the Tide. They've kind of quit on, the fan base kind of has quit on the Gamecocks, but I feel like they'll show out in a big way on Saturday. But 37-20, really impressive. They're better on defense. They're doing a better job running the football there as well. I think I'm going to have them at number 2 in my top 10 behind Ohio State. But Kalen DeBoer, hats off, has done a tremendous job after people were calling for his job, and people were calling for a lot worse than that as well after that first game. But Alabama's been sensational ever since that moment. Upset to not see this one coming. Arizona State beats Texas Tech. Arizona State, playoff team last year, Leavitt. They missed him with injury, I believe, last week. He was back. He was really, really good. Really, really good in the game. Texas Tech didn't have their starter. They had Will Hammond, but I think a lot of people thought, they would still look just as solid there with Will Hammond. We'll see if Texas Tech is still a playoff team, but the Big 12, wide open here at this point. I thought Texas Tech was going to kind of run away with the conference. Not the case. Arizona State, that's a huge win for Dillingham and company at home, and exciting game there at the end, 26-22. Vandy beats LSU. Also did not see this one coming. I thought LSU was going to handle business in this game. Game day, by the way, Vandy, Missouri next week. Should be really, really good. They can run the football. And Diego Pavia was running the ball at an absurd rate. I think they ran for 240 maybe on the ground, something like that. It definitely was over 215 on the ground. Completely took it to LSU from a physicality perspective. No Whit Weeks in the game for LSU, which was a big loss. But, we've kind of been just sitting there waiting for Nuss and this offense to take off. And, Nuss was fine in the game for LSU, but certainly not good enough for the Tigers. And now things should be getting loud, I think, for Brian Kelly, to be honest with you. That's their second loss already, and then you look at their schedule, and you feel like there's at least one or two more coming down the pipeline as well. I picked them to win the national title. Clearly, they are not a national championship caliber team here at this point for LSU, and they got to get that fixed because the defense has been kind of saving them this point in the season, but Pavia had his way running the football, did fine in the passing game there as well. Vandy's real now. Alabama beat them, and I think some people were like, they're not a really good team. Vandy's a top 10 team in the country. They're really good. And, Clark Lee's done a tremendous job with them. Pavia obviously playing with a lot of confidence and the whole team rallying around it. But I view Vandy as a playoff team right now, to be completely honest with you. We'll see how they do against Missouri, kind of on a national stage there with game day coming in. Georgia Tech beat Duke 27-18. They're now 7, I think, in the AP poll. Got to give Brent Key a lot of credit. He's been tremendous. I said, I would hire him if I'm Penn State, to be honest with you. I didn't think they were going to win this game, to be honest. They were 3.5-point underdogs against Duke. Duke's been playing solid under Manny Diaz. Haynes King is tremendous, but I just didn't think they had enough players on this team, enough dudes on this team to win the football game. But they did, and I think, 7, I believe, is where they're at in the AP. That seems a little bit too high. If you placed them, against an Indiana or an Oregon, I don't think they could hang, or a Georgia. I don't think they could hang with that caliber of team. But got to give them a lot of credit. They haven't lost a game. They beat Clemson. Clemson lost again, but I think they deserve a lot of credit. They're winning games, and I don't know how long this run is going to continue, but with teams losing at the top, got to bump Georgia Tech up there. That's a huge win for them. Notre Dame beats USC 34-24. Felt like USC or Notre Dame was going to kind of dominate this game. It was 9.5 for most of the week, so they barely covered. I think that game though it was actually 10.5. So then if you got it at 10.5, USC actually covered. But USC can't stop the run. Love, Price were great in the game. C.J. Carr's a tremendous quarterback. They lost 2 games. It was to Miami and Texas A&M early. I think they're going to run the table. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to be a threat. Marcus Freeman doing a tremendous job keeping his team together. Right? Remember they lost some MAC team, Northern Illinois, I think, last year, and then they ran the table the rest of the way until the national championship. Kind of feels similar vibes this year for Notre Dame, although that defense is not good, and that could certainly be an issue. But I think they're probably going to run the table and get in to the college football playoff. Big win for the Irish. BYU, man. They beat Utah 24-21. Utah's been a bit of a disappointment for me. I thought, Dampier coming over in the portal was going to help stabilize that quarterback position, and they were going to be able to score some more points offensively. Hasn't been the case. They struggled immensely against Tech, and now they have their second loss here against BYU. Is BYU the best team in the Big 12? I don't know. UC has to play them. That'll be a big-time game there for that, but Bear Brockmeyer, true freshman quarterback, going out there wearing number 47 or whatever the heck he's wearing, winning games for him. Got to give him a lot of credit. They win that one 24-21. That's going to be a massive game for UC in a few weeks. By the way, the Cats beat Oklahoma State. That offense looks really, really good. Big one at the nip against Baylor this week. If they take care of Baylor in this game, look out for UC as a potential threat in the Big 12. We'll spend more time talking about UC, by the way, this week. UCLA beats Maryland 20-17. This run's awesome for UCLA. They get Neuheiser coming in as their play caller, right? Some people think he's the interim guy just because he's always, the camera's always on him and he's always talking in the locker room. He's not. He's just the play caller. But Iam Aliava playing at a higher level. It just looks like a completely different team for UCLA, and it's been tremendous. They're a fun team to watch, and I am looking forward to UCLA and Indiana. That is what we have on Saturday. It's a noon game. I'm going to be tapped into that. We'll see. I don't expect UCLA to, win that game, or it probably won't even be that close late. But if they can play well against Indiana, man, that is one heck of a turnaround for UCLA, as they were just getting their doors blown off them to start this year, and they have done a complete 180. That has been awesome. Kind of one of my favorite stories of the year, to be honest with you, the UCLA Bruins. Florida won 23-21. That was weird. I was interested to kind of look at that because the line was 9.5 in favor of the Gators, and all the money was on Mississippi State. Vegas lost big in that game as Mississippi State obviously covered. Billy Napier wins the game and then gets fired after the game. So we did our James Franklin replacements last week. We will have our Billy Napier replacements segments at some point this week on the show. There was no way they could roll him back next year, and I think now, just from a timing perspective, weird after a win, but they're turning the page here to somebody else as the Billy Napier era at Florida. Complete disaster. That's a program in the SEC where it's like, there's a couple of programs where college football is just better when they're good. I think USC is certainly one of them, and I feel that same way about Florida, but they haven't been good in quite some time. They got to figure out that hire. They got to bring in a good guy to lead that ship. Now, I mean, maybe they're a basketball school now here at this point. They obviously won the national championship in basketball, but Florida football, they need to get back to being one of the best teams in the SEC because, the Napier era, total disaster. No James Franklin, obviously. No Drew Aller for Penn State. They lose to Iowa 25-24. It's tough. Coach is gone, quarterback's gone. It's the team that was supposed to have national title aspirations, and that obviously has not worked out to this point for Penn State as they drop that game 25-24. It's a rebuild year for them as they look to figure out their new direction of their football team. And then late night ACC. Usually it's late night Pac-12, but these days it's late night ACC. With these teams switching conferences or what have you. But Stanford beats Florida State 20-13. Florida State beats Alabama. It's like, Florida State's back. Now they can't win a conference game. Norvell might be next to get fired there as well. I think that is a real possibility. I'm not going to sit here and act like I've watched them closely, but based off the performance against the Alabama game, I am shocked about how they performed here because Bama was terrible in that game, but Florida State was also excellent in that game, and Castellanos was excellent in that game, and now they can't win a football game in the ACC, which is the worst Power 4 conference there is, and Stanford's not good at all, and they won that game 20-13, so very interesting. We might have a Mike Norvell replacements video coming as well, but a great week of college football, and we'll turn the page to next week, and there's some incredible games left there as well.